Hey there! Welcome to a special session offered by Garden City Arts. Today, it's all about drawing sugar skulls. Now, sugar skulls, if you're not familiar with them, are a very big part of celebrating the Mexican holiday Dia de los Muertos. And the sugar skulls are usually exactly what they sound like. They're sculpted out of sugar, hand decorated, and placed on altars as ofrendas for loved ones who have passed away. So, obviously you don't see any sugar and it's all about drawing. So we're going to draw the idea of the sugar skull and not actually sculpt one today. Whew, that's gonna be so much easier, right? Okay, so before we get started, let's talk about supplies we need. First off, you will want to have a whole bunch of paper on hand. The reason you want to have a whole bunch of paper is because you're gonna make mistakes. That's okay. Believe me, I made lots of mistakes when I was practicing for this video. So, have lots of paper on hand. You will want a pencil, okay? Today, I'm going to be drawing in Sharpie so that you can see it on the video, but you want to have a pencil so that you can erase. Make sure it has a good eraser on it. You probably will be erasing a little bit. Now, you also will want to have a Sharpie because you're going to go over your pencil lines with Sharpie once you have a sugar skull that you're happy with. You don't have to have a Sharpie necessarily. You could have a marker, like a Crayola marker or something like that. And then this is optional. If you want to add color to your sugar skull, that's something that you can do at the very end of the video, then you'll want to have your coloring tools on hand. They can be colored pencils, markers, crayons, oil pastels. You could even do paint if you're using the right paper, whatever you'd like, okay? So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We have our supplies, we're ready to get started. Okay, so for right now, put all of your other pieces of paper to the side. We just need one. And we're actually not gonna draw it all at first. What we're going to do is fold our paper. Now that might sound crazy, but it's gonna help you. So, very first thing, lay your paper so that it is longest from the top to the bottom. Take the top of your paper and bring it down to meet the bottom, okay? That's gonna make a little bend in your paper. I call that the wave. Now, you want to hold. Make sure you align corner to corner and hold it with one hand. Hold it really good. You don't want it to move anywhere. Then you're gonna take your other finger and you're going to break your wave, crush it, and crease your paper, okay? So that your paper is now folded in half. Now, we're gonna do the exact same thing, but we're gonna do it on the longest side of the paper. So turn your paper so that the longest side runs from left to right, okay? So from the left to the right-hand side. You're gonna take the top of your paper once again. Ooh, look, I'm making a wave again. I'm gonna match corner to corner, and then I'm gonna take my finger and break my wave down, okay? Now, when you open your paper up, can you see that on the screen? Can you see how there's a line dividing the middle of the paper from top to bottom and a line dividing the paper from left to right? This is going to help you a lot. I turn it over so that the crease is on the top so I can see it really easily. And then I'm gonna take my I'm taking my Sharpie, you use a pencil, okay? And I'm going to use my drawing utensil to make a few dots. These dots are gonna be the guides, okay? If you look closely at my original drawing, you can actually see, well, this one got covered up, but do you see those little tiny dots? Right there, right there. There's even dots in the corners of the eyes, you just can't see it, and on the nose, okay, and even on the mouth. So these dots are gonna help guide us to make sure that we have a skull that is symmetrical, okay? Symmetrical means that if you divide it in half, it is the same on the one side as it is the other, okay? Now, do you think it's symmetrical if we divide it in half, going from left to right? Is that the same as that? No, that's okay. But if we divide it from the top to the bottom, look at how everything's the same. There's a heart on the eye, there's a heart on the eye on that side. There's little designs and dots that are almost in the exact same place and the shape of the skull is almost the same. Now, I didn't do it perfectly, okay? This isn't perfect. This isn't completely symmetrical, but that's okay. It's close to symmetrical, and that's all that matters. Okay, so those dots are gonna come in handy. Now, the first dots we're gonna put is for the top and the bottom of the skull. Guess what? You want a big skull. If you put your dots really close to the center line, you're gonna have the tiniest little sugar skull ever, which will probably look really cute, but will be also very hard to draw. So instead, we're gonna make it really big, okay? I'm gonna come to almost the very top of my paper and put a dot. That's gonna be for the top of the skull. Then I'm gonna go to the very bottom and put a dot, and that's gonna be for the bottom of the skull, okay? Now, look at this line right here in the middle. That is going to be for the sides of our skull. So I want to make it big. I'm going to come to almost the very edge and put dots. Now notice how I try to make sure that they're in similar places on the line. For instance, if I put a dot right here and a dot right there, would my skull be symmetrical if I cut it in half going from top to right? It would not, okay? So you're going to have to think about everything being equal as far as if we divide the paper from top to bottom, okay? All right, so I have top, bottom, and sides of my skull. Now I'm going to draw the top of my skull really fast. I want a nice round skull. So I connect one dot to the other and I make a very, very curvy line. Do you see that? It has to be super curvy. Now, I have an idea for you. If you are close to a window, what you can do is draw only one side of your skull. Then you can fold it and put it up against a window, and you'll be able to see where your line is on the other side and follow it so that when you open your sheet back up, both sides are exactly the same, okay? So you can do that if you're close to a window. If you are like me and you are not at the moment, then you're going to freehand both sides. And just so you know, that's why mine is not perfectly symmetrical. That's why there's a few little problems, okay? That's fine. Art doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I like it better when it's not. Okay, so I have the top of my skull. I'm gonna draw, because I'm freehanding it, I'm gonna do the other side. And believe me, it's not gonna look exactly the same. But I'm gonna make it as close to the same as possible. Do you see? It's way off, but that's okay. Again, art doesn't have to be perfect. Next, I'm going to focus on the cheekbones. If I did curvy lines on the bottom, then it would look more like a face and less like a skull, okay? So we have to think about coming in a little bit to make little cheekbones. So I am going to start by deciding how much cheekbone I want. Okay, if you want just little tiny ones, then you could put dots that are closer to the outside of the paper. If you want it to look more like the original that I did, then you're going to move them in closer to the center line. Okay, so I'm going to use a straight object of some kind, and I'm going to decide, oh, I want my cheekbones right here, and I want to put a dot right there. That's going to be a really thin sugar skull, but that's okay. Now, what you can do if you are really worried about it being super symmetrical, look how I can measure. So I measure the dot from how far it is away from the center line. It's that far. Then I can bring it over here and put a dot, and there we go. Now, I am going to do a curvy line from the middle line to the dot. And there is my cheekbone. Do you see how we have things started? Ooh, it's starting to look a little like a skull. Now, I have to make a jaw. If I did a curvy line right here, that would probably be just fine. But I might want to think about like making sure that my jaw is nice and wide at the base. Do you see that? I'm going to put dots to make sure that I go as far out as I want. I'm going to use my pencil and put my dots. I'm going to measure. And then I could do either straight lines or a curvy line. It's up to you. I'm going to do straight lines. I think it looks cool. And now I have the beginnings of my sugar skull. Now I may have made my cheekbones a little bit too big. That's okay. Every sugar skull is a little different. Next, let's talk about the features. Now, there's a lot of information here, right? Lots of decorations. Again, traditional sugar skulls, they use sugar, like royal frosting to make those, and they use very colorful royal frosting to make those. We're not going to use frosting, obviously. We're going to use lines. And all of these details are very distracting, or can be, if you look at it as a whole. It can be overwhelming. So instead, we're going to just focus on the eyes, then we're going to focus on the nose, and then the mouth, and then we'll take all of the detail a step at a time, okay? That way it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Okay, so eyes. Eyes are going to be put right on the center line, okay? So I'm going to decide how big I want my eyes, and I'm going to put 2 little dots on either side, the left side and the right side of my eyes. Now, obviously, a sugar skull needs 2 eyes, right? Needs one on one side of the paper and one on the other side of the paper. So I'm going to take my handy dandy pencil and I'm going to decide, I want a dot right there, and I'm going to make a really big eye and have a dot right there. Now I'm going to take that same size and move it to the other side. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So I have the dots for my eyes. Now, dots for the left and the right side of each eye. Then all you have to do is make a curvy line, a hill on top, on each side. And then you have to make a bowl, a curvy line on the bottom, on each side. And there we go, we have eyes. All right, we're gonna leave those alone for now. We're gonna move on to the nose. The nose is going to start right below where your eyes left off. So I'm just going to put a little dot, and that's going to be the start of the nose. Now, the nose is very simple. It's basically an upside down heart. So if you don't want a heart, you don't have to do that. I'm going to put a heart in really fast just to show you. I'm going to put another dot, and I'm going to make an upside down heart. If it's helpful, you can turn your page upside down. If you're not used to making hearts upside down, that's okay. And there's my nose. Now, again, if you don't like the heart idea, you could just make everything a little bit rounder. And there we go. See how it's a little bit less heart-like? Now, obviously, because I'm using Sharpie, all of this is going to get filled in black since I made some mistakes inside my nose. Okay, so we have eyes, we have a nose, we have a kind of nose. It's kind of asymmetrical. Okay, and now we need a mouth. A mouth is right below the nose. So you're going to put a dot right where you want the mouth, and then you're going to decide how wide of a mouth you want. You could have it almost all the way to the edges, or you could have a very, very small mouth, okay? I'm going to do right about to the edge on either side, and then I'm going to draw a straight line. This is a bit more of a serious sugar skull than this guy. He's not smiling as much. Okay, so we have our line for our mouth, we have our eyes, and we have our nose. Now we can start adding the details. Inside your eyes, you could do an image. For instance, you could do a flower, or a heart like I did in my original, or a diamond that symbolizes money. You could do anything you want inside the eyes. You could do a symbol, okay, like a star, anything you want. This is your sugar skull. Now, the nose, we just fill in solid. It's just a solid black shape, similar to an upside down heart. See, that is definitely more of a heart, and that is more of just an upside down shape. Now, I'm going to fill it in solid black, and then I'm going to turn my attention to my mouth. I want some teeth on my mouth. Now, the way I make them, it's very simple. You can make them more detailed if you want, is to just start in the middle, right where the line is, and I make a tall, skinny hill. Do you see that? So all it is, you go up, you have a nice curve, and then you come right back down. Now, however many teeth you fit on this line, you're going to fit on the other side. So I fit 4 on this side, so I'm going to do 4 on the other side. Or try to. The best laid plans don't always work. Okay, so I have the top row of teeth. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing and mirror it so that it is exactly the same on the bottom. So I'm going to put in those teeth. Although you can make some smaller, especially towards the outside of your mouth. There we go. Okay, I have the basics of my sugar skull, but it doesn't really feel like a sugar skull yet because it doesn't have all of those intricate lines and designs. So we're going to talk about that really fast. So everything that you do on this side has to be reflected on the other side, okay? So for instance, if on this side I put a circle, I have to go to the other side and try to put a circle on the exact same place on the other side. And you want it to be about the same size. Mine never are. So does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully. If it doesn't, think about maybe just doing one side at a time, okay? Maybe fold it in half and drawing all of your designs. So for instance, you could do, I like to do little dots, especially above curved lines. And these little dots are great because from the dot, you can draw shapes. I especially like to do like little teardrops. Okay, just like that. Around the eye, a lot of times people will put petals or scallops or little hills. Do you see how those are little hills going all the way around? I just start very slowly and just make about the same size scallops all the way around. You can use shapes. You can use words if you want to, okay? You can really do just about anything you want. I personally like to do flowers a lot, so I'll do a curved line that goes off of my sugar skull, and then I'll make little flowers. Flower petals, I should say, that go off and around. Uh-oh. It's going to the other side. Uh-oh. That means I'm going to have to continue it on the other side. Okay. So I have some details on one side. Now I'm going to try to do all of the details exactly the same on the other side. So the first thing I do is the small details, just to get those out of the way. So like the dots and the little teardrops. Now look, that guy was big, so that's why I made bigger. And now this guy's kind of a medium. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to do the scallops around the eyes. And then I'm going to try the really hard part, which is going to be making that flower on the other side. Again, if you're close to a window, this paper is a little bit thick, but if you're using thinner paper, so this is thinner paper, do you see how you can see through it? So if you're using thinner paper, you can probably fold your paper in half, go over your lines really dark with either Sharpie or pencil, and then you can make all of the details that are on this side on the other side, okay? That's the easiest way to do this. I'm not doing the easiest way because, well, I don't have access to a window at the moment. So instead, my flower is going to be very asymmetrical. So just try to draw exactly what you drew on one side on the other side, which is really just easier said than done if you ask me. Okay, so it's kind of symmetrical-ish. Okay, so I have some flowers, I have some details. I'm just going to continue adding until I have all of this filled up. Sometimes it could be something very simple like a line. Maybe you just do a curved line going around a shape. Or maybe you take that simple shape and you add to it to make what looks kind of like a banana or a moon. Okay. It doesn't have to necessarily make sense. It could just be a weird shape that you put on there. But when you put a whole bunch of these weird shapes on there, it starts to kind of come together, and I think personally it looks kind of cool. Okay, so I might do maybe just another circle down here, or a half circle, semicircle down there, and then maybe just add a few more petals or teardrops or something. And then I think I'm going to be just about done. So I'm filling up a lot of the space, but I don't have to fill up all of it. There can be some empty space. And you also want to think about filling in your eyeball, okay, where your eye socket is. Even if you put a design in there, you still fill out the empty space. So let's pretend like I filled this in really fast. So all of this is going to be black. Now you probably don't want to add too much more black aside from the nose and the eyes, because remember, we have colored pencils. So if you want, you can add color. I wouldn't add it to the empty parts of your skull. I would add it only to the little shapes that you draw. So because you have drawn really great lines, you can use it kind of like a coloring book, especially after you go over it in Sharpie or marker, and you can stay inside your lines really easily. So if you have younger sisters or brothers at home, maybe you could do something really nice for them and draw out the sugar skull for them, because that kind of is kind of hard, huh? And then they can color it in, okay? That goes the same for parents. Maybe I have a parent out there watching right now who is the parent of some younger kids. Well, the younger kids might not be able to actually draw the sugar skull, but they will be able to color in one that you draw. So you can add color, you can add the black to the eyes, and that's really about it. That's the simple, basic 101 breakdown of how to do a sugar skull, or how to draw a sugar skull on paper. So, like I said, at the very end of this video, I'm going to put up a step-by-step how-to on what you need to do this. So if you are a little lost, just wait till that screen pops up, and then you can kind of guide yourself through it step by step. Okay? I hope you all had fun coloring with me today. I hope you come up with some really crazy, awesome sugar skulls. And I also hope that you share them with us, okay? Send them to us on Garden City Arts Facebook page. You can send it in a message or post it on the page itself. You can also email us at gardencityarts@gmail.com. And we would love to show off all of these awesome sugar skulls that you made at the end of the month. Okay, hope you have fun drawing and have a good rest of your evening. Bye.